over to you. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are muted, Councillor Hargrove.
Thank you, Clerk. I welcome you all to the annual meeting of Southwark Council. As Madam Mayor, Councillor Sandra Rule has given her apologies, as she is required to self-isolate, I am acting in her place for the first part of the meeting this evening. This is the second Council Assembly meeting held virtually by Zoom, and our first virtual mayor-making and annual meeting. We hope everything will run smoothly, but please, as usual, be patient if we have any technical challenges. Before we start the meeting, I have a few housekeeping announcements to make. All councillors should have their titles visible. Please rename yourselves as clearly identifiable by going to your name in the list of participants and clicking rename. Your microphones have been muted. Please unmute yourself when you are due to speak, and when you have finished speaking, please mute yourself again. We will be using the voting buttons on Zoom to vote unless the meeting agrees a decision by acclaim. We will be taking a screen break around halfway through the meeting for 5 minutes. If any councillors have any technical questions, please message your party whips or political assistants privately. If any members of the public have technical questions, please message the meeting hosts privately. Thank you for your cooperation. The guillotine for the annual meeting will fall around 8:30. There will then be a brief meeting of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee at the rise of the annual meeting. I understand that each of the party group leaders wish to make a tribute to the outgoing mayor. I call Councillor Peter John to speak.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy. Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I want to take this opportunity to thank Councillor Sandra Rule for her service as the Mayor of Southwark over the past 16 months. I know Sandra is deeply disappointed not to be here tonight, and I also know that she was disappointed that she was not able to end her mayoral year in the style in which she had hoped. And I'm sure it would have been some real style. But this pandemic has forced us all into places and situations which were unexpected and unwanted. But for the vast majority of her year, Sandra was able to perform her duties with the commitment and style which we had all expected. Sandra's remained authentic throughout her mayoral year, and I know has left an impression wherever she has been. As the immediate past mayor, I know that she'll be called upon, I'm sure by you, Mr. Deputy Mayor, in due course, to perform functions on behalf of the mayor going forward. So I hope and believe that she will see her continued role in our civic life as some compensation for the challenging circumstances of the past 6 months. So on behalf of Southwark's Labour councillors, I want to thank her for her service this year. She has enjoyed her mayoral year, and we have enjoyed having her as our mayor. We also thank Councillor Lorraine Lauder for being a magnificent consort during this year. And I'm sure, Mr. Deputy Mayor, that we wish them both the very best of health and the very best for their future service of our borough.
I call Councillor Nick Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Mayor. I've always had a sneaky admiration for the pomp and the ceremony associated with the role of Southwark's mayor. You get to wear robes, gold chains, When you walk in, everyone stands up. How many people have a mace carried in front of them? How many people have an official Jaguar with little flags on the bonnet? So it must have been doubly frustrating for our outgoing mayor to have so much of her mayorship carried out by Zoom. And yet throughout this, I think I can safely say that Sandra brought an element of humanity to the role that has been very welcome in the stilted world of virtual meetings. So on behalf of the Liberal Democrat Group, I'd like to say thank you for your service to the borough and to wish you the very best for the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Councillor Hargrove, you have big boots to fill.
Judy, you need to unmute yourself.
Apologies, Councillor Assembly. Thank you, Councillor Peter John and Councillor Nick Johnson. We shall now consider the election of the mayor for 2020-2021. In accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act 1972, the first item of business for this annual meeting is to elect Southwark's mayor for 2020-21. I have received notice of one nomination, Councillor Barry Hargrove, for the office of the mayor for the new municipal year. Councillor Peter John will propose the nomination. Thanks, Councillor John.
It is my very real pleasure to nominate my friend, Councillor Barry Hargrove, to be the mayor and first citizen of our borough for the forthcoming municipal year. Barry has been a busy and exemplary deputy mayor over the last 16 months, and I know he's ready, willing, and able to step up to the #1 spot. It's hard to think of someone who is more steeped in our borough's community than Barry. He's lived all his life in Southwark, in the same house just off the Old Kent Road, the same house that his grandparents and his aunts and his uncles before him lived in, as well as his deeply loved parents. That same area, the Old Kent Road, is at the heart of our housing and transport plans for the future of our borough, still. But Barry remembers the days when, as a child, he played on the bomb sites, which are now at the heart of multi-million-pound planning applications. I've known Barry for nearly 25 years. We've campaigned and electioneered together, often from his house. I had the pleasure of meeting and knowing Barry's mum, and can only imagine how proud she would be of her boy today. Barry has been a stalwart friend to me over the years, and a brilliant cabinet colleague over the first 8 years of this administration. Barry loved, or at least appeared to love, every job and task that I gave him, no matter how challenging. But I know that he really enjoyed environment and leisure, keeping our borough clean and our essential services operating. Barry's never hidden his pride in Southwark and has shared that vision that we must do everything we can to improve the life chances of each and every one of our residents. Having represented Peckham Ward for over 20 years, he knows and understands the rich diversity of our borough. He understands the challenges so many of our residents face. He shares their ambitions for the future. I know the importance that Barry places on lifelong education. He'd be the first to admit that he perhaps didn't take full advantage of his first bite at schooling. But I know that he will use his mayoral year to promote the opportunities that there are in our borough, those opportunities that are needed now more than ever. I feel that Barry's been at my side throughout my leadership of the Labour Group and of this council. So I'm delighted that my last formal act as leader of the council is to nominate my friend, Councillor Barry Hargrove, to be the Mayor of Southwark for the forthcoming municipal year.
Councillor Rebecca Lowry to second the nomination, please.
Thanks very much, Chidi. And I'm delighted to be seconding Barry as the next Mayor of Southwark this evening. Whilst Peter has spoken about Barry's upbringing in Southwark and what he's achieved to date, I wanted to speak very briefly about the type of Mayor that Barry is going to be. I know that Barry is particularly excited about being able to take on this role, but also does so with some trepidation given the circumstances around COVID-19, which will no doubt make the role a very different one this year. Very graciously, Barry will be continuing the great charitable fundraising that Sandra started during her term as Mayor by continuing to fundraise for those same organisations. And this shows exactly the type of Mayor that Barry will be: conscientious, thoughtful, and always keen to support fellow councillors. I know that what he wants to do above all else is to support the safe recovery of the borough and minimise the impact that COVID-19 has on our communities over the coming months. And I have every faith that he will do so, whilst also bringing his great humour and brilliant chairing skills to the table. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councillor Lowry. Are there any further nominations?
No.
I will now move to the vote. All councillors in favour of the nomination, please click yes. And just a reminder on how to vote in case members need refreshing. To vote yes or no, the voting buttons, if you click on participants, it's at the bottom of the list. So at this point, all councillors in favour of the nomination should please click yes now, and all councillors against the nomination should please click no now. I'm just tabulating that. I think it is actually a unanimous voting, but just for clarity, any members or councillors abstaining, please click yes now. It is unanimous. Council Assembly has resolved that Councillor Barry Hargrove be Mayor for the ensuing year. Councillor Hargrove, if you can make your way to the lectern.
I do.
Councillor Hargrove, do you assent to the resolution?
I do.
I declare that Councillor Barry Hargrove is duly elected Mayor of Southwark for the ensuing year. Thank you. I will now ask the Mayor-elect to sign the Declaration of Acceptance of Office, and this will be countersigned by the Monitoring Officer, Ms. Doreen Forrester-Brown. We're just waiting for the new mayor to put on his robes, and then he will sign the Declaration of Office. Thank you. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I will now ask the mayor to sign the declaration of acceptance of office, and this will be countersigned by the monitoring officer. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I will now hand over the rest of the meeting to Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Is me becoming the proudest moment in my 25 years as Southwark Councillor? Yes. Thrice, yes. But I thank Southwark that there have been so many moments to cherish. Highlights amongst them being the day people streamed into a revitalised Burgess Park, the day I led the relaunch. The day of celebrations that Selchep got underway, putting the H into combined heat and power. The year we doubled the recycling rate, though we never somehow marked that achievement, and I never asked for us to. All I know is it was in 2014 before March, and that the focus at that moment was winning the soon-to-be Fulk Council election, which might explain, or not, my or our modesty. Trawling back even further for moments in time, there was my by-election victory on the 3rd of August, 1995, by 259 votes over one Caroline Pigeon. But what I remember most about that evening was it was raucous, and no one had warned me I had to do a victory speech. And I can't forget May 2019 in the cathedral when I emerged in the purple robes of the Deputy Mayor, walking past and playfully smiling at Johnson and Richard Livingston. Such a sunny day. The family all on a heightened level, encapsulated by my grandson Oscar, who described the car driver Uday as the nicest person he'd ever met. You see, setting means so much. The truth is, we just can't say which is the most memorable. Take, for example, the process of constructing this speech. An idea a day here, an idea another day there. Every time I formulated a phrase, a sentence, a concept, I pictured it being delivered in the cathedral. And every time this happened, there followed a sense of loss. And then, snapping out of it, I'd remind myself that I am to be the virtual mayor and that this speech would be delivered, so to speak, ex cathedra. In truth, looking back, mayor was never really my thing. Mayor was never political enough for me. The sacrifices I'd made to become a councillor were for the Labour Party, and the only way was to be partisan, to win after 16 years of seemingly endless Conservative government. Today, I can look at myself and laugh a bit. Then, the accidental councillor becomes the accidental mayor. But allow me to pay some tributes. To Mary Doherty, after my beloved mum, the most important woman in my life. It is with a joyous sense of contentment that I make her my mayoral consort today. To Councillor Sandra Rule, my mayoral mentor, for all you did for me when I was deputy mayor, and for the fun events that we shared together. It is my wish that Sandra's COVID-curtailed charity choices, the Mum Mum Foundation, the Arts Academy, and Camberwell Choir School are rolled over to become mine for the remainder of this mayoral year. And to Councillor Lorraine Lauder, thank you for being Sandra's loyal and supportive consort. Lorraine Lauder, you were born for the mayor role and always have been and always will be a delight to work with, whether it is in your own ward or as part of the mayoral team. I salute you too. Both Lorraine and Sandra are unwell at the moment, and I pray for their speedy recovery. I want to thank too my buddy, Councillor Sunil Chopra, and Jackie Brazil, the Mayor's ever-reliable secretary. I'm very much looking forward to working with both of you in the months ahead. Challenging, but new and exciting times. Big thanks to my Labour group colleagues for putting me forward, and all councillors who have voted for me today. A big up actually to all the councillors, all of them I've worked with over the years. Too many to mention, but I want to single out two for special mention at this moment. Former Mayor Councillor Joan Katchik, who was my first councillor friend, and former Mayor Councillor Teo Situ, who was my most important councillor friend. I bow my head to their memory and ask on high that I be given the strength to make as faithful a servant to the people of Southwark as those two did, each in their own unique way before me. And let me pay tribute too to Southwark Council, beyond its political aspect, to the dedication of all those professionals, from the warm and wonderful reception staff to the aspiring chief executives and above. In bringing forward this speech, I've minimised mention of the C19 word, but it would be remiss of me now not to use this platform to pay tribute to two employees who lost their lives to this awful virus. Jeffrey Chabala, who worked in housing repairs. I never came across Jeffrey, but my deepest commiserations to his family, friends and work colleagues. Sonny Boshrim, I did know. Sonny worked as a security reception. He was a truly lovely fella who, whenever I saw him, would either nod enthusiastically or shake his head incredulously, depending on how the football team we both shared a devotion to did at the weekend previously. Fondest regards to Bola, his widow, who some of us will remember from her time in the constitutional team in years gone by. Be blessed always. Now, if I'm to become a good mayor, then I'll need to be mindful of time. So, got the chains and robes, done the I do declaration, signed this book, made the speech. We're ready to get on with the meeting, but first I think we will have a 5-minute adjournment as planned. Thank you. Thank you, everyone. We should now consider the constitutional business. I've received apologies from Councillors Lorraine Lauder and Sandra Rule. Are there any other apologies for absence of lateness or lateness? No, no apologies received other than those. There are no urgent items of Mayor business. Before we consider the Mayor reports, does any member wish to make a declaration? No? Okay. Before I open the next item, I would like to call on Councillor Andy Simmons to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It's a pleasure to speak on behalf of the 3 Southwark MPs. And I can assure you that the 3 MPs wrote and edited every word of this speech. And I'll let Peter have a copy of the track changes document after the meeting so we can see exactly who said what about him. So, as the 3 members of Parliament for the borough and as 2 former members of Peter John's council team, we would like to convey our gratitude for his decade of delivery and for leading the council through some extraordinary times. Peter became the leader of the council in 2010 and immediately faced unprecedented in-year cuts from the new coalition government, which has been followed by a reduced grant from government, but a dramatic rise in demand for help from people and organisations across our community and borough as a result of national government policies. Peter has more than risen to the challenges, including most recently staying in post to help manage our borough through the unique, painful circumstances of the coronavirus pandemic and the additional needs, pressure and change to council services and support it has brought. Peter's ambition for our borough has never been diminished by the challenging period through which he has provided leadership and clarity of vision for our community. Peter has always conducted himself with dignity, even in the most challenging times, and has worked to bring people together, including cross-party, to deliver for Southwark. The new homes, jobs and apprenticeships are some of the achievements most closely associated for Southwark. But equally, the support for disadvantaged young people to get to university, the free swim and gym policy, new libraries, universal free healthy primary school meals, the London living wage for every council staff member, and the largest council home building programme in the country are all just as much Peter's positive legacy for Southwark. We are also proud of the role that Peter has played through the Local Government Association and through London councils to champion local government. His strong voice has been much needed during a difficult decade of austerity, which has seen council resources slashed, and these recent difficult months have shown once again just how vital it is that our councils are properly resourced and empowered to deliver for local communities. It has been a pleasure and a privilege to work alongside Peter to serve our constituents and communities in Southwark. As a Labour family, we are proud of Peter's service to our community and to all the people we represent in the best borough in the world who have benefited from his leadership of the council. Thank you, Peter.
Now I'd like to call on Councillor Peter John, Leader of the Council, to say a few words.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Mayor. I'll be the first to congratulate you on your elevation to the mayoralty of our borough. I just want to take this opportunity to thank my Labour colleagues on the council and the voters of our borough for allowing me the privilege of serving as leader of Southwark Council for the last decade. It has been a decade of delivery. We've set out our promises and commitments to the people of our borough at successive elections in 2010, 2014 and 2018. And we have gone on to deliver on those promises. I hope we've played some small part in this last decade of restoring some confidence, at least in Southwark, in people's belief in the power of politics to change and to be honest. My ambition in 2010 was to ensure that Southwark was recognised as a vital and growing part of central London. There'd be no more consideration by taxi drivers that they wouldn't go south of the river, because south of the river was where it was at. And I think we've achieved that over this last decade, seeing record investment into our borough, creating record numbers of jobs. Those are not theoretical jobs or apprenticeships. Those are real jobs for real residents. The husbands, wives, sons and daughters of Southwark residents. I'm incredibly proud of the universal services that we've been committed to and delivered, services which people scoffed at and didn't think that we'd be able to do, like free swim and gym and free healthy school meals, getting rid of the stigma of free school meals for so many children. And our commitment, not just to investing in our existing council housing stock, although we've done that, record amounts invested over the last decade, but building new homes. Our commitment to build 11,000 new homes remains the largest number that any council has committed to across the country. It's born out of our beliefs and our values, our fairer future values, that we have lived as a council over the last decade, and which I hope people see on Channel 4 on a Thursday evening as they watch Council House Britain, the commitment of our staff to live out those values, to look after some of our most vulnerable residents. It wouldn't be possible to have achieved anything as a leader of a council without the support of councillors. I've been extraordinarily lucky to have fantastic Labour colleagues throughout my years as leader of the Labour group and of this council. I've been incredibly lucky to have had cabinet colleagues who have been simply amazing. I've given them leeway to get on and deliver things, and they've done them, risen to every challenge, just as you did, Mr. Mayor, in the first 8 years of our administration. We've had an opposition that's kept us on our toes, but I hope we've also kept thinking like an opposition, responding to what our residents wanted, living out our values. It's been my pleasure to work with Southwark's MPs over the last decade. And we have been extraordinarily lucky, haven't we, in the MPs that we have had in that time. Harriet Harman, Tessa Jowell, Simon Hughes, Neil Coyle, and Helen Hayes. And we've had a wonderful officer corps to work with. You know, there is no them and us in Southwark between officers and councillors. It's just a team effort. And I want to thank each and every officer who has played a part in delivering our decade of delivery under the inspirational leadership of our Chief Executive, Eleanor Kelly. I can't end any speech without talking about Southwark as the best borough, in the best city, in the best country in the world, but it is. And I hope every resident who lives and enjoys our borough and the many visitors to our borough share that same belief. We are facing extraordinary challenges. I did stay on 6 months ago to help Southwark and in my role as chair of London councils, and I'm grateful to my colleagues in both Southwark and across London for allowing me to do that, and I hope I've played a valuable part in our response to COVID-19 as a borough and as a city. The challenges remain, the difficulties remain, the economic challenges remain. But I know for this best borough and this best city that Southwark and London are in safe hands going forward. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to serve.
Thank you, Councillor John. There has been one nomination for the position of Leader of the Council. Councillor Kieran Williams. Only the elected councillors can vote on items. All those councillors in favour of Councillor Kieran Williams being the Leader of the Council, please click the yes button now. All those councillors against, please click the no button now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the votes are tallying up now. I've got 55 yeses and no no's. Sorry, 58, 59.
Is that final, Jide?
Yes, it is final. So
It's
if we
final.
can check whether there are any abstentions.
Okay. Are there any abstentions?
There are no abstentions, Chair. There is a vote from Councillor Victor Chamberlain for, as his tick is not showing up on screen.
Thank you. The clerk will now clear all the votes from the screen. All councillors abstaining, please. Okay.
Likewise,
the election of Councillor Kieran Williams as leader of the council is carried.
It would do normally.
I would like to invite Councillor Kieran Williams to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and congratulations on your appointment as the first citizen of our borough. I know you will make it a huge success, and I really look forward to working with you. Being appointed as leader of our council is, without question, the honour of my life. Southwark is a truly amazing borough. Within a few square miles, we have a taste of everything our planet has to offer. Food from every corner of the world, cultural institutions to rival any in the world, world-leading hospitals, universities and businesses, and people from every part of the globe. A borough truly brimming with potential. It was that potential that brought my grandparents here just after the war from Jamaica, Ireland, Wales and the Black Country to work in our hospitals and on the buses and on the Festival of Britain as well. It was that potential that brought me back here to bring up my family, and it's that potential that I see that made me stand to be leader of our council. Because everywhere I look in our borough, I see the chance to make it an even better place for the people who live here, to raise prosperity and to make sure that prosperity is shared by everyone in our borough. Over the last decade, we've made incredible progress. Southwark Labour has delivered more council homes, schools, libraries, parks, and so much more. And I want to say thank you to Peter. For 16 years of leading our Labour group and bringing us back into power, for a decade leading our council, for over 2 years providing leadership across the whole of London as chair of London councils. The free school meals, the new council homes, the jobs and apprenticeships that you've made happen in this borough have changed the lives of thousands of people for the better. And we're a better borough for it. And I know there are thousands of people across Southwark who would echo me in saying thank you to you. And so I say thank you on behalf of all of them. And you've left firm foundations for us in Southwark. I wish you the very best for the challenges you face next. And whatever you take on, I know you'll make it a great success and you will approach it with the same ambition you've approached your 16 years as our Labour group leader and 10 as a leader of our council. As an incoming leader, I am hugely grateful for the foundations you've left. There is nothing overstated in saying this is an unprecedented time for our borough. COVID-19, a global recession, the Tories still pushing ahead with a hard Brexit, a housing crisis and a climate emergency. Never in our lifetime have the challenges been more daunting. And the last few months should lead us all in no doubt of the work we have to do. It's not by chance that the toll of this pandemic has fallen most heavily on our Black, Asian and minority ethnic communities, on women, on people with disabilities and people on low incomes. It's a direct result of the injustice in our country, injustice that has been driven up by a decade of Tory and Lib Dem austerity. But let me be clear, that inequality is not inevitable and it is not acceptable. It is something we can and must change. Over the last few years, I've had the privilege of meeting and working with thousands of people from every bit of our borough, of listening to their hopes for the future, the careers they're building, the businesses they're starting, the youth projects they're developing. It is those conversations and those ideas, and above all, the people of our borough, that make me believe we can achieve more. And never has that potential been clearer than during this pandemic. Over the last few months, we've seen thousands of volunteers across our borough step up, alongside charities and businesses, public services, and all of the staff of our council, to get our community through this pandemic. And let me say thank you to all of them. Our collective effort, your collective effort, has been truly phenomenal. And I know our whole council, all of our councillors, are incredibly grateful to all of you. Having worked with people from every part of our borough on that effort, I've seen just how much we can achieve when we all work together. As leader of our council, I want to release all of that potential. So together, we can stop the spread of COVID-19. So we can renew our economy, strengthening our town centres, growing our fantastic green, biomedical, construction, clusters, and cultural industries. So we can end homelessness, with no return to rough sleeping, more council homes, and a better deal for private renters. So we can end our carbon emissions, greening our council homes and estates, turning over more of our streets to zero carbon uses, and cleaning up our air while we're at it. That is the work I will start tomorrow. I look forward to doing that work with all of you. So together, we can make sure Southwark continues to be a borough where prosperity is here and it is shared for all. Thank you very much.
I'd like to invite Councillor Nick Johnson to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And may I say what an unexpected joy it is to be back in the council chambers. I never thought I'd find myself saying that, actually, but just the joy of actually seeing a few people. And I hope that one day we'll all again be able to sit and debate the issues of the day. I would like to extend our congratulations to Councillor Williams. And if it is not a little premature, also to Councillor Annie, for their recent election successes, becoming the leader and deputy leader of Southwark Council. And what a truly momentous time to take charge. In some ways, I don't envy the task that either of you face. It's extremely hard to predict what the future may hold for our borough, but some things seem likely. We are almost certainly looking at lower income from business rates and from council services, simply because those council services are shut. We have considerable uncertainty as to what, if any, central government subsidies will be available from MHCLG. This is combined with higher responsibilities as a council. We are responsible for housing homeless people in the borough, which in one sense is a stupendous achievement and one I don't think any of us thought would ever happen, but it comes with a considerable price tag. We have the cost of shielding vulnerable residents, which I imagine will go on, well, actually, I don't know how long it will go on for. We have the cost of conducting track and trace, endless additional costs, considerable reduction in income. There's a possibility, and let's face it, maybe even a likelihood of localized lockdowns, and none of us are sure how that will work. All of that means less money in the pot, and a major financial deficit from the council is almost certain. So some ugly choices will have to be made. I don't know what choices you will choose to make, Councillor Williams, with your team. Perhaps it's cutting services, perhaps it's raising taxes, perhaps it's scaling back ambitions, perhaps it's even making people redundant. I don't know. Maybe all of the above will be unavoidable simply because there is no choice. And these are difficult choices. I would say ruefully, as Liberal Democrats, we know very well what it is like to be in power and faced with having to take austerity measures. So my sympathy goes to you because I don't think you have an easy task ahead of you. But let me say that two things strike me as being vital for the next few years. If the council, if your leadership team is to take austerity measures, I've used the A word, in order to balance the books, then I would urge you that residents must be properly consulted and be genuinely part of that process. When austerity is imposed from above, and I think we all know this, it doesn't work. People, when they understand the choices that are being made and feel engaged in that process, are much more likely to be supportive of it. So I urge the administration to outline precisely how it will engage with residents in this decision-making process. Something else strikes me. 1960s Prime Minister Harold Macmillan is supposed to have said when asked what knocks an administration off course, events, dear boy, events. And my fear is that the two demons of COVID and austerity will hijack any agenda that this administration may have. Plans will be abandoned or postponed because they cost too much or simply become too hard to implement. And so I urge you, Councillor Williams, to you and your administration to play the long game. Of course, you need to respond to the crisis in front of you, but don't lose sight of some of the opportunities that lay in front of us too. Earlier this year, this council unanimously agreed to declare a climate emergency. Climate change hasn't gone away. You referred to it in your speech. And we have an opportunity to make this council carbon neutral and this borough the greenest in London. Of course, that will cost money, and there'll be a temptation to think we can't do it this year, let's do it next year, or maybe the year after that. We'll do a third of it. But of course, we've been saying that for decades. It's possible to kick the carbon challenge down the road year after year until presumably one generation finds that actually it's too late. Any ambition around climate change will cost money. The temptation will be to reduce the scale of your ambition accordingly. I would say now is actually the time to be brave and invest in a greener future. In short, let's find a positive in COVID. Let's use COVID as the catalyst for a green revolution in Southwark. Mr. Mayor, thank you.
Okay. I now invite the leader. I now invite the leader to the lectern to report on cabinet member portfolios and delegation of executive functions for 2020-21. There is no.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Choosing a cabinet from our Labour group is always a hard choice. We have a rich seam of talent and people putting themselves forward to serve our borough. But this year, I'm delighted to announce an incredibly strong cabinet that really represents the full diversity of Southwark from every part of, and wards from every part of our borough. So let me go through the cabinet nominations. Councillor Jasmine Ali, Deputy Leader and Cabinet Member for Children, Young People and Schools. Councillor Evelyn Akoto, Cabinet Member for Public Health and Community Safety. Councillor Stephanie Cryan, Cabinet Member for Jobs, Culture and Skills. Councillor Helen Dennis, Cabinet Member for Social Support and Homelessness. Councillor Rebecca Lurie, Cabinet Member for Finance and Resources. Councillor Alice MacDonald, Cabinet Member for Communities and Equalities. Councillor Leo Pollock, Cabinet Member for Housing. Councillor Catherine Rose, Cabinet Member for Leisure, Environment and Roads. And Councillor Johnson Situ, Cabinet Member for Climate Emergency, Planning and Transport. And Deputy Cabinet nominations, Councillor Rada Burgess, Deputy Cabinet Member for Low Traffic, Southwark. I would also like to say a thank you to Councillor Richard Livingston and to Councillor Vicky Mills, who are outgoing from Cabinet this year, and to thank them for their long service to our borough and the huge contribution they've made delivering our fairer future promises in Southwark. Thank you.
Councillor Jasmine Ali, the Deputy Leader of the Council would like to say a few words.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor and Council. I just wanted to say how happy I am to be your Deputy Leader. And I want to start by congratulating you, Mr. Mayor. Your wit, charm and location, a comrade from representing Peckham Massive, are all excellent mayoral credentials. I also want to thank our outgoing Mayor, Councillor Rule, who has given her time with style and generosity across the Council, and not least to the children in our care, supporting our care awards with uplifting speeches. I wanted to take this opportunity to thank Councillor John for inspiring us with his Fairer Future vision and his support, encouragement and insistence that we all think big and deliver big for our residents. Thanks to him, we have had a positive impact on so many lives, and I will work to ensure our universal policies stay intact. Look, it's not going to be easy. The current climate is challenging: recession, pandemic, climate change and racism, terrible and growing inequality. And this is why I want to congratulate Councillor Williams, who has made equity his key purpose. He has pledged to build a future where no one in our borough is left behind, and I will support Councillor Williams every step of the way to be there for our residents. I'm also delighted to be working with all of our councillors. Yes, you. You're all such an impressive bunch, and I will inform you, involve you and back you all the way so that we can continue to do the best for our residents. We are so lucky in Southwark to have such talented local councillors, hardworking and experienced senior managers and dedicated frontline officers, teachers, health, social workers, the list goes on. They are brilliant. And as we have seen in recent months, they are brave too. The recent shift in our use of technology has made it more possible to connect us all together. And I intend to continue with this. I'll set up new channels even to keep us all together. These are tough times and we will see them through as safely as we can and beyond to a brighter future for everyone in Southwark. Thank you.
We shall now consider item 3.3 on constitutional changes. There are no questions on the report. Do any members wish to speak on this item? If no member wishes to speak on this item, we shall move to the vote on the recommendations set out in the report. Is this agreed?
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed. I think that's agreed. Okay. We should now consider item 3.4 on the establishment of committees, panels and nominations to the Local Government Association General Assembly. There are no questions on the report. The nominations for chairs and vice chairs of committees and the nominations for the Local Government Association have been circulated. There are 4 contested positions, so I'll move to the vote on the contested position of the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny. Those in favour of Councillor Ian Wingfield, please click the yes button.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I've got 45 votes for Councillor Wingfield.
Okay. Those in favour of Councillor, am I muted? No. Those in favour of Councillor Victor Chamberlain, please click the yes button now.
I've got 13 votes for Councillor Chamberlain, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
1 abstention, Mr. Mayor.
Okay. Council Assembly has agreed that Councillor Ian Wingfield will be the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny Committee.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Assembly.
I will now move to the vote on the position of the contested position of Northwest Multi-Ward Area Deputy Community Champion. Those in favour of Councillor Carl Eastham, please click on the yes button now.
I've got 46 votes for Councillor Eastham.
Those in favour of Councillor Maria Linforth Hall, please click the yes button now.
I've got 13 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Can I make a point of order, please?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry, Mayor. I don't mean to make this more protracted.
Which point of order is it?
Actually, we're struggling to vote in the Liberal Democrat Liberal Democrat group, and it's not actually coming up on our screens to vote yes or no.
Okay. I think what you're currently doing.
Through you, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, go ahead.
Councillor Chamberlain, sometimes I notice that you voted, or rather the Lib Dem group, some members are voting no, when the question was actually who are those voting for a particular member. So I do see your vote when you vote no, but what's happened is that the Mr. Mayor is actually asking for those voting in favor of a particular candidate. So you don't need to vote no if you're not voting for that candidate. What you need to do is, when it then comes to the candidate you are voting for, you vote yes, if that's clear.
Okay, thanks for the clarification.
Thank you, Councillor Chamberlain.
You're welcome. Council Assembly has agreed that Councillor Carl Eastham be the Northwest Multi-Ward Area Deputy Community Champion. Congratulations. I will now move to the vote on the contested position of North East Multi-Ward Area Community Champion. Those in favour of Councillor Sonny Lamb, click the yes button now.
I've got 45 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour of Councillor Anoud Al-Samurai, please click the yes button now.
Through you, Mr. Mayor, I'm just double checking because I note some members haven't voted. So I'm trying to figure out which ones haven't voted, and then I can ask them to confirm their votes verbally.
Thank you.
Because at the moment I've got 10 votes, but I presume there should be more than 10 votes for Councillor.
I think, sorry to come in, I think the problem is, you're right, Chidi, members have been clicking no, and then they lose it, and then they click yes, not in time, so it doesn't acknowledge it. So I do think the previous 2 votes, you didn't actually get all the Lib Dem votes, I'm afraid. I don't know if it's possible to take them again more slowly, or if it's too late.
Okay, the voting is actually majority, so and we're not doing a recorded vote.
Fair enough.
So once we have a majority, that's fine, because we're not doing actually recording the names of how people voted. If that's okay with you, Councillor Al-Samurai.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough. But I think, yeah, the numbers haven't been accurate, but you're right, the result is the same.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So let me just double check for the vote we are taking at the moment, if there are any members who I note did have not voted for this vote. I think Councillor Liza Mann has not voted.
I don't know if I've voted. I'm not sure what we're voting on now. We've lost connection and come back in.
No, you voted for the previous one. We're now voting for Councillor Anud Al-Samurai. But as I pointed out, we're not doing a recorded vote, so it's a majority vote that carries, and we've already had 45 votes for the previous candidate. So we're not going to get more than 45 votes because we only have 61 members attending anyway. So through you, Mr. Mayor, that signifies that Councillor...
Yes. Council Assembly has agreed that Councillor Sunny Lamb be elected North East Multi-Ward Area Community Champion. Congratulations.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
I will now move to the vote on the contested position of North East Multi-Ward Area Deputy Community Champion. Those in favour of Councillor Leanne Werner, please click the yes button.
I've got 45 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Those in favour of Councillor Anud Al-Samurai, please click the yes button.
I've got 14 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Council Assembly has agreed that Councillor Leanne Werner be elected the North East Multi-Ward Area Deputy Community Champion. Congratulations. There are no other contested positions, so I'll now move on to the vote on the report and the nominations. Only the elected councillors can vote on items.
Yeah. Sorry, Mr. Mayor, through you, can I just make a quick clarification on one of the items? Just to note that for appointments to the audit, governance and standards subcommittees, that these appointments are made by the parent committee. So the annual audit, governance and standards committee will make the appointments at their first meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Because I think there was a slight error in the list that was distributed, whereby a member was indicated as being a chair of one of the subcommittees. But just to note that those appointments will be made by the parent committee at his first meeting following the annual meeting. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay. Where are we? Okay, we'll now consider item 3.5. A list of nominations to London councils, committees and borough lead members has been circulated prior to the meeting. I will now move to the vote. Is this agreed?
Agreed.
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 Agreed. Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Agreed.
We will now consider item 3.6. There are no questions on the report. Do any members wish to speak on this item?
Yes, Chair, I'd just like to say a few words, if I may.
You're very welcome. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I keep calling you Chair. Mr. Mayor, I'm sorry, and congratulations on your appointment this evening, which is, I know you're going to have a great year, Barry, and you fully deserve it. It gives me great pleasure, Mr. Mayor, to present the annual report of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee as required by the Council's Constitution. May I start by thanking all those members who sat or deputised on OSC during this period for their contributions and, more importantly, their patience with me as their chair. I particularly wish to thank Councillor Dennis and MacDonald, who I believe have moved on to other things. Equally, Mr. Mayor, I would like to thank the chairs and members of the Scrutiny Commissions for all their hard work in producing innovative reports of excellent quality, and indeed recommendations that go far beyond this council and are quite innovative for local government as a whole. And in this regard, I would like to pay tribute to Councillor Werner, who chaired the Scrutiny Commission investigating environment and climate change issues, whose reports have added quite significantly to our body of knowledge on such issues. Mr. Mayor, I would like to tell the Assembly that our last 16 months went according to plan. However, like a bolt from the blue, COVID arrived, and so did lockdown. In such an unforeseen circumstance, the council services were faced with a situation where they had to adapt very quickly. Although not obvious at first, it soon became apparent there was a need for effective scrutiny to ensure that no vulnerable or elderly person was left to fend for themselves, and that our services continue to be delivered as best as they could for all our residents. I'm pleased to report, Mr. Mayor, that Scrutiny did step up to the plate, and after some very intensive meetings, gave full consideration to the Council's response to COVID-19. And I'm pleased to say all its recommendations were subsequently agreed by the Cabinet. I must also point out that our work has been carried on a cross-party basis, and I would like to thank the Lib Dem members for their contributions, if challenging at times, to our discussions in the spirit of United to Serve. And in particular, I would like to thank Councillor Salmon, who as my Vice Chair has given me support and advice in critical moments. Mr. Mayor, being elected Chair, it was my goal to give Scrutiny not only a renewed sense of purpose and direction, and also to elevate its status in the Council. I'd like to thank officers for their support in achieving that. Our Cabinet and Scrutiny constitutional model can't function successfully if there is an imbalance between that relationship. Good governance requires an equal partnership based on trust and respect. This must and will remain the case. Mr. Mayor, on behalf of all Scrutiny members, I present our annual report to the Assembly. Thank you.
Thank you. If no other member wishes to speak on this item, we should move to the vote on the recommendations set out in the report. Is this agreed?
Agreed.
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 Agreed. Agreed.
Barry, you're on mute.
Okay, yeah, thank you. The clerk has pointed out an error in the agenda, with the order of things. I apologise. It was we are voting on the substantive of the chairs and vice chairs of the multi-ward areas. Only elected members can vote on items. All those in favour, please click the yes button now.
I've got 58 votes, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
And I'll just double check, but that's majority anyway.
Okay. All those councillors against, please click yes now.
No one is against, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Abstentions?
None, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. That concludes the annual meeting. I will now hand over to the Chair of Overview and Scrutiny, Councillor Ian Wingfield, for the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting. Thank you,
Mr.
everybody.
Mayor.
Safe journey home.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Sorry we're doing a double act tonight.
Good night, good night, good night.
Good night. You're free to leave the meeting, those who aren't members of Overview and Scrutiny Committee, but you're also quite welcome to stay and watch if you so wish. I'll just give it a couple of moments for people to leave the meeting.
May I ask a question?
We haven't opened the meeting yet.
But point of order then, is it just members of OSC who should stay or members of other scrutiny commissions as well?
Well, only members of OSC can participate in the meeting. So it's not members of commissions because we haven't set the commissions up yet.
Okay, all right. I don't think I'm...
In that case, I wish you all good night. Thank you.
Yes,
I don't think I'm part of it.
No, certainly no.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry,
right,
Ian, can I ask, I'm a reserve on main overview and scrutiny. Should I stay?
You're welcome to. I'm not kicking people out for the sake of it, but you won't be able to participate in the meeting.
Okay.
So you're welcome to mute yourself and watch us. Okay, I think we sort of sorted ourselves out. So so if I can start by opening the Overview and Scrutiny Committee meeting and to welcome everybody to it. As I said, this is only for members of the Overview and Scrutiny Committee that can participate in this meeting, nobody else. I'm going to move on to apologies as the first item. I have received apologies for absence from Martin Brecknell, who's one of our co-opted members. And I just wondered if there's any more apologies that have to be given. I don't think so. I think everybody's here who should be here. I just want to confirm the voting members. So I'll go through the list of names one by one. And if you could just confirm you're here as a voting member. So if I could start with Councillor Ali first, please.
I'm here.
Thank you. Councillor Babudu.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Buck.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Chamberlain.
Hello, Chair.
Good evening. Councillor Edwards.
Hi, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor King.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Ottrey.
Present, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Olisa.
Here, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Salmon.
Yes, here, Chair.
Thank you. And Councillor Werner.
Present, Chair.
Thank you very much. I will now move on to any items of business which the chair deems urgent. I haven't got any, you'll be glad to hear. Item 3 is disclosure of interest and dispensation. Does any member wish to declare an interest or dispensation in respect of any item on our agenda this evening? Okay, silence is golden. Thank you very much. Item 4, scrutiny arrangements for 2020 to 2021. You should have all received an email from Everton Roberts containing a motion on the proposed scrutiny arrangements for the following year. Does any member wish to speak on the motion?
Can I just clarify that I think that there were reserves sent on behalf of the Liberal Democrat group to Everton, and I'm sure Everton can clarify that.
Okay, Everton.
Chair, that is correct. What's been omitted is that for Overview and Scrutiny Committee and its commissions, you can actually submit the same number of reserve members as there are committee members. As members, as the Labour group hasn't put forward their reserve members yet, and the Liberal Democrat group only put forward one Scrutiny Commission member. So I thought rather than present an incomplete list of representatives, it would be better just to put to be confirmed and follow up after the meeting.
All right. I think you need to turn your volume up a bit, Everton, or get closer, one or the other. It was a bit quiet. shall we leave it in the hands of the respective whips to sort out and then come back to us and notify us? Is that agreeable to everybody? Thank you. Thank you very much. As you can see, we have, for the purposes of the record, 4 commissions that we wish to establish this evening. I'll just go through them one by one. Education and Local Economy Scrutiny Commission. The chair is Councillor Babudu and the vice chair is Councillor Al-Samurai. The Environment Scrutiny Commission, where the chair and vice chair will be Councillor Jason Ottery and Councillor Graham Neal. The Health and Social Care Scrutiny Commission, the chair and vice chair will be Councillors Elisa and Councillor Noakes. And the Housing and Community Engagement Scrutiny Committee, where the chair and vice chair will be Councillor Edwards and Councillor McCullum. Okay, is that agreeable to everybody? Yes, thank you. We are also being asked to nominate for the Joint Overview and Scrutiny Committees. Is that correct, Everton? I can't hear you now, Everton. No, you've gone silent altogether. No, there's nothing coming through, Everton. Is it a connection or? Because you're not on mute, so there must be a connection problem. Okay. Do you want to email me or text me what we're supposed to be agreeing for this? Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I'm sorry about this. If you could just hang on a minute while I get.
Councillor Ali has suggested muting and unmuting yourself or leaving the meeting, returning. Either way, give it a shot.
Can you hear me now, Chair?
Oh, yes. Yes,
okay.
Loud and clear. Not for that. I'm glad somebody knows how to use the technology on this council. So,
my apologies.
Thank you, Councillor Ali.
The representatives are at the end of this document, Chair. They are Councillors Elisa, Councillors Noakes, and Councillors Maria Linkforth Hall and Councillor Charlie Smith.
Okay. Okay. Can we agree those nominations, please? Thank you very much. Okay, the final thing that we have to agree this evening is meeting times. I've had a request that all the committee and commission meetings, which are currently scheduled to start at 6 p.m, be moved back to the normal start time of 7 p.m. So I just wondered if there was any discussion on that. It's not me. It's been requested from elsewhere. So I just wondered if anybody wanted to comment. Gavin, did you want to say something?
Yeah. Was a reason given, Chair, just to kind of, I mean, my comment on the suggested change is that I can't obviously see a reason why that would be easier or less easier for other people. You know, the meetings that I've had at 6 o'clock, indeed the meetings that you've held at 6 o'clock as chair have gone well, and I think the 6 o'clock start has kind of been okay. So, but if there's a reason, an explanation for it, then I'd be good. You know, obviously I'm open to persuasion.
Chair, the request came in from Councillor Hamish McCullum, and the reason given was that members are back at work now and they're finding it difficult to actually attend 6 o'clock meetings, and would like the meeting to start at 7 p.m. to enable members to switch off from their day job and attend a meeting in the evening.
Right. So is that confirmed by Lib Dem members present? Is that the position?
Sorry, I don't think it's just a Lib Dem member thing. There's various people who've got work. I appreciate there are others with childcare, but it would be appreciated.
Okay, so is there any more comment on this before we?
One from me, Chair, if I may.
Yes. Yes.
I think for most people, they have, saying you're back at work now. I mean, I've never not been at work, and I think that's the case for most people. I didn't stop work because there was a lockdown, and I think that's also the case for most people as well. It's a fine line, but on balance, I'd be in favour of keeping it at 6 o'clock.
Okay.
Yeah, if I might come in, just I just kind of rather not make the call by force, so then I'd like to kind of check with other commission members. Personally, it would probably be harder for me to start later as well. But if the ask is for like commissions as well, I'd rather not do it there. And in terms of main ask, it is more problematic for me. So maybe it could be kind of agreed by vote or something.
Okay. Well, I'll tell you what we'll do is we've got the 4 commission chairs now. If those chairs take it to their individual memberships and do a ballot of their memberships to see which time is more. I don't want to legislate across the piece. I think we'll take it one by one effectively. So all we can do this evening is decide on the times for OSC. So I'm going to put it to a vote, either 6 o'clock or 7 o'clock, unless any other member. Jack, did you want to say something?
Yeah, thanks, Chair. I think I'm going to agree with Gavin that personally I prefer 6 o'clock, and actually it's been, I think, one of the nicer novelties of being stuck at home, actually, that getting a few extra hours in the evening. I do understand it's difficult for other people. I mean, I don't know whether the committee wants to consider a compromise of 6:30. It's just a suggestion. I mean, I think I'm probably in favour of 6, but if 6:30 will make everybody happy, then it's worth considering.
Okay. I like people who try and split the difference. Very good negotiating tactic. Well, we've got 3 options.
Chair, could I just come in very, very quickly?
Yes, please.
I love Jack's suggestion that I think particularly for the first meeting, maybe that would be a good compromise for every member. But perhaps, going forward, it might be better just to go and speak to the OSC members to find out what they think would be most appropriate for their personal work circumstances. But I would just like to make a request that, actually, I appreciate, we've had a very unprecedented period over the last 6 months, but going forward, it'd be really helpful if we could all keep to a standard time so that we know when we are meeting, because I know that some members have had difficulty with the fact that it's moved about, but certainly for the next meeting, why don't we just agree 6:30 and then, that's a good compromise.
Sure. Yeah, I'm also very conscious that we've had a couple of meetings where we've gone over 4 hours. And, as much as I'd love to be in your company at 11 o'clock at night, I do think the earlier we finish would be better. So the start time of 6 certainly has my preference too. And I think, as you say, it's extenuating circumstances. And while it continues to be, and all the evidence is showing that, things are going in the wrong direction when it comes to COVID-19. So, we could be in this predicament for some time to come. As Gavin's indicated, I think 6 o'clock has suited most people in those circumstances. I'm quite happy to put it to a vote this evening just for OSC, not for the commissions. As I say, they can decide themselves what time they want to meet. I'm not going to dictate to them. So that we're all here so we can go to a vote this evening. So it's been suggested that we, instead of keeping 6 o'clock, we move to 6:30. So that it will be the motion. Can I see all those in favour of moving to 6:30, please, for our next meeting? So we got 1, 2, 3. Oh, oops. Oh, the technology. 1, 2, 3. Oh, blimey! Oh, more hands are going up now. Okay. Well, I think that's overwhelmingly in favour. So I'm not good with numbers. So yeah. So that's 6:30, and we can always revise that on a rolling basis given events, etc. Okay, I'm sorry to have been protracted with that final item. I should also say, sorry, I'm being rather impolite this evening, to obviously welcome Victor as the vice chair of the committee, and to thank Jane, as I did in the earlier assembly, for all her support over the last 16 months. Thank you very much. And I look forward to working with all you again for the remaining months of this municipal year. Unless anybody else wishes to raise anything, I intend to close the meeting. Is that okay? Oh, you're waving goodbye, Jack, or? You're waving goodbye, good. Okay, thank you everybody. Have a good evening, what's left of it. Thank you.